Wakey, another beautiful week, another beautiful day, and I'm glad that you chose to join us this morning here on KTN News. My name is Dibala Nair. As always, I trust that you had a lovely restorative weekend, refreshed, and you're ready for the week wherever you're joining us from. Today is the 8th of April, 2024, and you have Standing Point, that is Standpoint, coming your way, where we shall be delving deeper, looking and analyzing the week that has been as far as our political landscape is concerned, and also focusing on what will be happening this week as well. Cost of living continues to be a big issue. The doctor's strike, that is the doctor's strike, continues apace. The president says, can't pay, won't pay. There's no money to actually pay the doctors. So what is the way forward? We eagerly await to see how that will pan out this week. Before we even delve deeper into much discussion and, of course, news items, let's see what we have in our weather today. The cost of being Kenyan, that is what is headlining the front page of the Standard. Just seeing the dailies fresh off the press today. This is what you're waking up to when everything seems to go up. From birth to death, Kenyans will now pay more not only to be citizens, but also sustain themselves, owing to the increased cost of acquiring important documents like birth and death certificates, national identification cards, and passports. That story continues on page 2 and 3 of the Standard this morning, and we shall be looking at that as well. Looking at the teaser that we do have it here right now. Raila gets AU job boost in West Africa tour. That is the story on page 5 in today's publication. Genocide. 30 years after the massacre, this was being observed in Rwanda. And you can follow the story on page 29 of the Standard today. Importers shun SGR over course. This is on page 19. School games. Machakos rose to life. That is what we have on page 38 and 39 of the Standard today. Let's live within our means. Ruto plea to doctors. And you can see the president here and First Lady Rachel Ruto receiving blessings from AIC clergy led by Reverend Samson Samoei in Eldoret yesterday. You have a story on page 11 of the Standard today. And he said this, quote unquote, I know we have a situation with our doctors and interns. I want to implore them that it is important for us as a nation to agree that we must live within our means. We cannot continue to spend the money we do not have. That story, you can follow it inside the Standard this morning. Let's see what we have also inside the Health Bullet magazine that really comes in handy for you every Monday. Get all the wise as far as your health is concerned. And this week they're focusing on epilepsy. What it's like to live with epilepsy. You can follow the story inside the publication today. Neo-colonialism prize Africa will pay in the climate change fight. The rush to secure carbon credit deals in Africa by Western entities resembles the historical scramble for the continent. This story is tucked away on page 6 and 7 of the publication today. This is how it looks. Make sure you grab a copy for yourself. Up next is the Daily Nation. Uhuru's political traitors. That is what is headlining the front page of the Daily Nation today. Mr. Kenyatta had a falling out with President Ruto, his then deputy. He then ran up to the 2022 polls, or in the run-up, I should say, to the 2022 polls. That is all about politics, as the flagger will read here what they said, just to sample some of his sentiments here. Mr. Kenyatta, to traitors, I want to tell them that even Judas, that is Judas Iscariot, betrayed Jesus, but he later left the pieces of silver and hanged himself. Everything will all come to an end. All right, he continues to say, but as the Nuncio has reminded us today, the job of a shepherd is not to direct, but to guide and lead and bring everybody along with you. And then we had Dagoretti North MP Beatrice Elachi saying, quote unquote, it was a sermon and he was trying to use the same sermon to give examples. But I think he was speaking in general. That is the story that you want to follow inside the Daily Nation. This morning, betrayal. Former president, that is Uhuru Kenyatta, has rekindled the politics of betrayal in the country after launching a scathing attack on unnamed traitors in the political scene. This comes as Azimio leader Raila Odinga, who he backed in the last polls against his then Deputy President William Ruto, has started working with Dr. Ruto, who is even spearheading his bid for the African Union Commission chairperson seat. You have his story on page 6 of the Daily Nation this morning. We can't afford to pay you, Ruto tells doctors. We must live within our means, he says. President William Ruto has finally broken his silence on the crisis facing the health sector, telling the striking medics that there is no money to pay them. The president urged the striking doctors, clinical officers, and laboratory technicians to reconsider their stance, stating that the country is struggling with a ballooning wage bill and meager resources. And this story continues. We'll lay that for you on page 4 and 5, where it is fleshed out for your reading. All right, on the side, Rwanda genocide reporter recalls covering the horror. This is Christmas, or Chris Erasmus, not Christmas, and he says that this is Nation's correspondent in Cape Town, South Africa, recalls his assignment 30 years ago. That story on page 3 of the Daily Nation. Premier League advantage, Arsenal and Man United hold Liverpool to draw. Arsenal remained top of the EPL table courtesy of superior goal difference after Manchester United and Liverpool drew 2-2 in the Battle of the Reds. You can follow the story on page 39 of today's publication. And also, neglect by state leaves education sector in private hands. That is the story that you want to follow on page 7 of the Daily Nation this morning. This is how it looks. Let's see what the star is holding for us. State Miles, Kalenjins and Kikuyu's Jobs Cup. That is the splash. Face of Kenya, a budding question there on the flagger. PSC is seeking powers to enable it to require unbiased recruitment. PSC, that is Public Service Commission, is seeking powers to enable it to require unbiased recruitment. Hiring skewed to favor major ethnic groups while some communities underrepresented. That is the story that you want to follow on page 4 and 5 of the Star. Also, graft allegations. I'm not poor. Governor Wavinya tells of her rivals. That is the story on page 8 of the Star this morning. And how former MCA plotted murder of estranged wife. What do you do when the very man who was meant to protect and love you becomes your abuser? Where do you run? Where do you run to when his obsessive and insecure personality refuses to let you live in peace but hunts you down to death? This was the fate of Lucy Njambi, who died in the hands of her former husband Samuel Njoroge, a former Ruero MCA, on January 24, 2018. The two always had strained relationships, or relationship based on the evidence presented by the prosecution in the case. You can follow the story on page 6 of the Star this morning. Ruto to striking doctors, we must live within our means. I've belabored that. You can follow the story inside the publication today. That is the Star. And President worships at AIC in Eldoret. We can see him here after the service. Ruto at Africa Inland Church Fellowship in Eldoret, greeting the children there. That is a Star. Let's see what we have inside the People Daily, and also on the front page, the headlining story. Ruto, I have no cash for doctors, it says. Strike in a move that could add pain to patients. Adamant president tells medics to go back to work, saying his administration cannot meet their demands. You have his story on page 5 of the People Daily this morning. Also, transporters accuse brewer of chasing away their key jobs. That is a story on page 3. Parliament told that KBL has contracted foreign companies to offer services. Transporters accuse brewer of chasing away their key jobs. And this is a story you want to follow inside at the People Daily on page 3. We're crippled, cries land team. That is a story on page 6 of the publication today. And please help, my husband is too hard on our son. That is on page 19 of the People Daily. It's all about parenting. Let's see what we have on the front page of the Star. Ruto akausha madaktari. That is a splash. Hata hivyo, kiongozi wa nchi ahidi kwamba serikali itawaajiri madaktari wanafunzi 1,500. Rais asisitiza kwamba serikali yake ina mzigo mkubwa wa kulipa wafanyikazi mishahara na haiwezi kufanya kosa la kutoa nyongeza kwa madaktari wanaogoma. That is a story that you can follow on page 2 of Taifa Leo this morning. And also, we can see a related picture there of the striking doctors. That is the story, as I mentioned on page 2, is tucked away. Viongozi waungana kukabili wizi wa mifugo. Wazazi mijini waepuke shule msingi za umma. This is a ufichuzi investigation there. You can follow the story on page 2 of Taifa Leo. Let's buckle down to some business. Kenya lifts 4-year freeze on issuing mining permits. Kenya lifts 4-year freeze on issuing mining permits. That is a headlining story on the front page of the Business Daily this morning. Mining Rights Board considering 400 applications, more than 1,500 applications submitted to the board. Kenya has started processing permits and licenses for mining and prospecting of minerals after more than a 4-year hiatus amidst growing concerns among industry players over the slow pace of approvals. You have the story inside the Business Daily this morning. Also, state defaults on civil servant pension contribution. A cash crunch at the National Treasury saw the government skip remitting pensions for civil servants in the next 6 months to December 2023. You have a story on page 2 of the Business Daily. Cane farmers face losses in items switch. Sugarcane farmers supplying Butali sugar mills are staring at losses from delays in harvesting their cane after the mill asked them for the invoices through the electronic tax invoice management system, that is ITIMS. That story continues on page 4 of the Business Daily. Chinese farm to hire 4,000 traders, not traitors, but tailors, right? Forgive me them. After Rivertex partnership, textile manufacturer Rivertex has partnered with a Chinese firm to produce fabric and garment products as it eyes to exploit opportunities under the Africa Growth and Opportunity Act AGOA markets. You can follow the story inside on page 5. Safaricom Mali unit assets hit 1.4 billion shillings. Total assets managed by the Safaricom-backed unit trust scheme, that is Mali, hit 1.4 billion shillings in the year ended December 2023. New disclosures is showing this, and interest rates on treasury bills dropped first time in 2 years. Interest rates across all the treasury bills have fallen for the first time in over 2 years, pointing to the beginning of an end to the rise in yields on government securities. You can read the rest of the details in today's publication on page 2 of the Business Daily this morning. Let's see what we have inside the Star. If we just cross over to the Citizen, this is the headlining story. That is in Tanzania, tour operators protest service levy burden. Tour operators protest service levy burden. Tour operators saying they intend to stop collecting government fees from tourists on the grounds that they add up on the annual turnovers, thus attracting hefty service levies imposed by local authorities. You can follow the story on page 2 of the publication today. On government's behalf, tour operators have been entrusted with collecting hundreds of millions of dollars from tourists in the form of entry, national park and concession fees on behalf of the government. July 1st, 2024, Tato's letter signed by Chief Executive Cyrili Ako said tour operators will, with effect from July 1st, 2024, stop collecting park entries and concession fees from tourists, citing the heavy burden of service levy as the overriding factor behind the move. You can follow the story inside the publication today. All right, let's cross over to Rwanda. Murambi Genocide Memorial, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The memorial is divided into sections, including mass graves where over 50,000 victims are laid to rest. That story continues on page 3. There was a memorial, of course, that we can see. Rwandans cannot be indifferent to roots of genocide. This is what Kagame was saying, and you can see him here. And the First Lady, Jeanette Kagame, laying a wreath at the Kigali Genocide Memorial. As the country started the 30th commemoration of a 1994 genocide against the Tutsis on April the 7th, addressing thousands of mourners. Later, at the BK Arena in the capital Kigali, Kagame said Rwandans cannot afford to be indifferent to the roots or to the root causes of the genocide. That story continues on page 4 of today's publication. Kwibuka, the ongoing struggle to locate genocide victims' bodies, and that is on page 2. And also experts weigh in on transgenerational trauma. That story on page 10 of today's publication. This is the New Times in Rwanda. All right, allow me to go to Uganda before we see what the East African is holding for us. And this is what you're waking up on the front page of a Daily Monitor. City traders to close shops over tax row. This is the crux of the matter. It says Uganda Revenue Authority says planned demonstration in unjustified. I think it should read is unjustified. The preposition in is wrong there because it catapulted to different demands by the merchants regarding EFRIS, suggesting any strike reveals traders' intent not to pay fair share of taxes. You have a story on page 4 and 5 of the Daily Monitor this morning, and also able to support yourself. Mango raises over 2.4 billion shillings for HIV a fight. They came out in force there. As you can see, the photo montage of an elderly woman and multitude that attended the 11th edition of the Kabaka's birthday run in Mengo, Kampala yesterday. The event that sought to raise awareness in the fight against HIV/AIDS raised more than 2.5 billion shillings in kits sales alone. You can follow the story inside the publication today. Also, Stanbic asked to submit fresh names for top job. That is a story that you have on page 7. And also remember, you have the Healthy Living magazine. Get all the wiser as far as vasectomy is concerned. Is vasectomy right for you? If you want all the answers, you can read in today's publication. All right, this is what we have inside the East African publication. This week, a rebuilt Rwanda 3 decades later, as it marks the 30th anniversary of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsis. It's remarkable just how much Rwanda has not only survived but thrives and is reaching for more. You can follow the story on page 4 and 5 of this week's publication. Kwibuka, Twibuka. That is the mantra there. You can follow the story inside the publication. Why outsiders won't let Sudan test prosperity. Human rights watchdogs finger some countries for profiting from the instability. And also leaders call summit over next EAC boss. Blocks apex organ expected to swear in new Secretary General. And you have a story on page 3 of the East African this week. This is how it looks. All right, let's see what we have on the front page of a China Daily. And this is what you're waking up to on the front page of today's publication. Stable Sino-US trade ties urged. Premier Lee says stronger cooperation will boost both nations' development, global growth as well. And that story continues on page 3 of the China Daily. Domestic tourism market gets big boost from three-day holiday. That is another story inside the publication today. And fruitful outcomes expected from high-level exchanges. And bring them all home now. And this is a protest there, hostage deal now. People protest on Saturday in Tel Aviv, Israel, against Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's government and call for the release of Hamas-held hostages. That story on page 6 of the China Daily today. The Economist, this is the latest publication. China's risky reboot. This is what is on the front page of The Economist. As you can see there, right? And Trump and nuclear deterrence, Latin America's right-wingers, why India's elite loves Modi. That is another story that you want to follow inside the publication. More cures from weight loss drugs is another story inside the publication today. That is the latest from The Economist. You can grab a copy for yourself. And this is what you're waking up to the front page of the Newsweek as well. All right, it shall come. I think a delay there. The world's greatest auto disruptors. That is on the front page of the Newsweek as well. The world's greatest auto disruptors. It says here, the innovators leading the industry into the digital future. As you can see, your first look at the new Mercedes-Benz G-Class also is inside there. That is the latest publication, as you can see, a special issue there from the Newsweek as well. All right, the week, England's dirty water, time to renationalize. Time to renationalize, they ask. And this is the latest publication of the week. You can read all about it in the publication there. All the things Meta knows about you. That is all about privacy and, of course, the Facebook or other devices there, or applications, I should say, as far as Meta is concerned. A bit of free speech row in Scotland. The painters who invented modern art. This is the week in the UK. The week in US, crushing the party. Will RFK Jr.'s long-shot candidacy draw enough votes to doom Biden? That is the question, and it's all about the elections in the US as well, with the party elections. This is the week. Baltimore's rebuilding challenge and why Trump is selling Bibles, right? It's all about taking points. Why Trump is selling Bibles. This is on page 6. And how she blocks out the haters. Read all about Anne Hathaway inside the publication this week. All right, looking at the editorial cartoons, this is where I want to invite our panelists who are joining us this morning to decipher the editorial cartoons with us, two of them that we have this morning. And this is in today's publication. And it's all about the president and his reach for power. As you can see, that is a long leg of the president. And you can see that particular, is it a, what weapon is that? It's a crude weapon. It just looks crude, right? It's a rungu there. Reaching for power. The latest has been that the president is trying to accumulate as much power as he can. And if you may remember, if you used to play that particular game there, Sigay, right?
Is that
what sort of game was that we used to play now, reaching, where you used to throw in the... Huh?
The official name would ordinarily be hop, stop, and jump.
Hop, stop, and jump.
Hop, stop, then jump, yes.
Yeah, if we just have the retro cartoon back so that we can see hop, stop, and jump. So the president has been hopping, he's been stopping, and he's been jumping. He's trying to reach for power as it stands. Richard Onyonka, what do you decipher? Good morning, good to see you.
Good morning.
And welcome back after a long, or is it a short hiatus?
It's been a short hiatus, very busy, but I'm okay.
Yes.
I'm happy to see my brothers here and see you too.
After
Thank you.
The deputy governor of Kisi.
It wasn't me. I just.
It wasn't me. I love it.
Wasn't me.
It wasn't me. It wasn't me.
I can confirm that.
You like
I
really,
can
really
confirm.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you can confirm because you.
It wasn't me as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It
He was a bit
me as
laid
well.
back. Huh?
No,
He had to take a neutral position.
that was
which
a
is
very
given.
painful political decision that I witnessed about my county, because the issues are much deeper than the optics.
Yes.
And Kenyans were looking at the optics. So it's interesting. I'm informed that the deputy governor has gone to court now.
Yeah, I can see. And there's a sort of a dilemma there with the IBC,
Yeah,
since
IBC
with the
yes.
appointment of this deputy governor, the current one.
Yes.
Yeah.
So let them handle it. I think let them follow the law and we see how it goes. Yeah.
Fantastic. Good to see you. Let's hear from Dr. Makale as well. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Morning, Biba. I'm also happy to be here this morning. It's a wet morning.
Tikudoku in Kitui Central.
Okay. It is good. It's raining. Actually, I came from there last night.
Okay.
It's raining and the crops are doing well. So we continue to thank God for the rains. has been very gracious to us as a country. And that's why those who are trying to derail these good efforts in terms of God gracing us with the rains by selling to us fake fertilizer. It's not doing well to this country. At the same time, the week to me, it was very low in terms of the accidents. We lost so many people and we continue to lose a lot of people. And it's a big concern to me.
Yes.
As a leader, I feel that's an area we need to do something. The issue of the doctor is still another issue. I hope we'll be able to discuss it in this show, because I think there are things we need to bring out in terms of what is happening. So generally, the week, last week was not very good for Kenyans, losing a lot of lives. And you know, the worst bit is life. You can't replace lives. You can replace anything else, but lives, once they're gone, gone. So families are hurting. And we need to think through some of those issues. But generally, we are here. We thank God with life.
Right. So there's a very interesting editorial cartoon as well. This is all about the doctor's strike, as you can see it there. So right now it seems there's no money because the president says can't pay, won't pay. I know when to strike, and you can see behind the wheelbarrow is a Ghani with dollars jutting out there. So when it comes maybe to 2027 elections, that will be the cards, or to actually now flag it. The money will be available on the campaign trail, as you can see there. Let me hear from Honorable Geoffrey Ruku. Good morning. Thank you.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. It is a nice morning to be here. And I think we are witnessing where both members of Kenya Kwanza Coalition and Azimio are saying those who are in government offices must do the right job, must be able to do the right job to serve Kenyans. Whether it is a minister in charge of agriculture, whether it's a minister in charge of health, we need to see them doing the right thing in their offices. I think when political games shift from by exit of Raila Odinga, now we are focusing on the delivery of services, and I think it's a good thing for this country, and I think that is the right direction for all of us to take, to ensure all Kenyans are served and served properly. If it is the issues of what's happening on our roads, I think no one is happy to see many people losing life. Of course, there are many factors, but we need to see a very proactive minister in charge of transport and infrastructure coming up with innovative solutions to take care of our roads. So we are seeing both sides of the house coming out to say, let's do what is right. Let's work for Kenyans. Let's serve Kenyans in the best way possible. At the same time, we have seen a week where Raila Odinga has gotten a boost from West Africa out of His Excellency the President going to the West Africa, in Ghana, in Guinea, and there's serious boost in his candidature for African Union Chair Commission. So I think everything is going in the right direction. Also, we have seen the rebound of Nairobi Stock Exchange in a serious manner. We have seen the further decline of inflation to now 5.7%. I think all parameters are showing that this country is heading in the right direction. And of course, we accredit all that to the President of the Republic.
All right, headed to the right direction, but we want to know that as well as far as the strike is concerned with the doctors, the ongoing public health crisis in the country could deepen. after President Ruto, if we may just roll up the auto cue for me, if we can go on with that, right? After President Ruto broke his silence on the matter, saying the government cannot meet one of the demands to avert the ongoing strike. Although doctors maintain the strike will continue in earnest as long as their demand on salary increment is not met, the president has said due to the current economic status, the government cannot afford to meet the demand, asking doctors to accept the government's offer. Grace Nganga starts us off.
Been asked as to why President William Ruto has maintained a steady silence as the ongoing medic strike gets more intense after clinical officers joined an ongoing doctor strike for close to 3 weeks.
I know we have a situation in Kenya with our doctors and interns. I want to implore on them.
Although the anticipation was for the president to give solutions to avert the strike that has paralyzed services in public health institutions, health paralysis could deepen further in the country after Ruto told off striking doctors over demands on salary increment and interns allocations, saying the country is struggling with a huge wage bill, bringing negotiations between doctors and government to an almost dead end.
We are spending 1.1 trillion shillings every year to pay salaries and wages of the 2.2 trillion we collect. It is way above what we should be spending. We are spending 47%. Our wage bill is 47% of our revenues. It should be 35% according to the law. So we are way above. So we need a conversation so that those of us who earn salary must be responsible.
Speaking at the AIC church in Eldoret, where he attended a church service, President Ruto stressed that the country must manage within its available resources instead of resorting to borrowing to pay wages, maintaining that his government can only afford the 70,000 shilling stipend for each medical intern at the moment.
We must be honest with ourselves. We must tell each other the truth. And the truth is, we must live within our means. The resources we have are only sufficient to pay 70,000 shillings for intern doctors. It is not a salary, it is a stipend for only 1 year, and then they will be employed. And we want all our doctors, all our doctor interns to be taken in, and that is why we are going to spend the resources that we have to make sure all the 1,500 plus or minus doctors, all of them are absorbed at once.
Additionally, the president revealed plans to reduce the national budget as the country heads towards economic recovery.
We must live within our means. We must live within our means, fellow countrymen and women. We cannot continue to spend the money we don't have.
In their response hours later, the Kenya Medical Practitioners, Pharmacists and Dentists Union, through their Secretary General Dave Giatella, say they will not backtrack on the issue of salaries, arguing that what they're asking for now is what was agreed upon in the 2017 CBA after compromising with the government's request at the time. And I quote, "It's quite obvious to all of us that we are dealing with a repressive government, an employer who has no regard for the welfare of its workers and the health of its citizens. A government which has, instead of addressing the perennial ills ailing the health sector, has chosen to instead wage a war of propaganda, intimidation and threats against doctors." Doctors went on strike March 15th, demanding for the implementation of 2017 CBA. Some of their issues include a failure to provide comprehensive medical cover, perennial delay, and general mismanagement of internship program. Other issues raised include the failure to employ more doctors and failure to provide a training budget for postgraduate doctors from 2018. Biggest question remains, who will bend first for the sake of the common man? Grace Nganga, KTN News, Nairobi.
Now, the family which lost 6 members in the Salama Road crash in Makueni along the Nairobi-Mombasa highway has lost yet another member who has been receiving treatment at a Nairobi hospital. 7-year-old Joyce Muthoni, who has been in and out of ICU, succumbed Sunday morning. The family holding a memorial service for the 7-year-old in Nakuru separately. Also, 4 people died and 8 others left nursing serious injuries after the bus they were traveling in overturned at Nithi Bridge along the Meru-Embu Highway mid-morning on Sunday. Ken Gashui has more.
Tears and pain as mourners grieved the death of 7 members of a Nakuru family during a memorial service held at PCA Church Lanet, Nakuru County. The family lost 6 members on the spot in the freak accident that occurred on Monday night at Salama area, Makueni County, along the Nairobi-Mombasa Highway. The number of relatives who lost their lives in the accident, however, rose to 7 Sunday morning after 7-year-old Joyce Muthoni, who has been in and out of ICU, succumbed, bringing the total number of fatalities in the accident to 12.
Chorus, digatiga kuwori mwega. That is our slogan. Ya kwamba licha ya mambo yote yamefanyika, maana kuwapoteza wapendwa 6, na leo hii asubuhi ya leo yule ambaye alikuwa katika ICU ametuacha. Yule mdogo ambaye alikuwa Kalen Hospital, sasa tunaongeza idadi.
Among the family members who lost their lives in the accident include Irene Muthoni and her 3 children, Lemi Macharia, Joyce Wairimo and Joyce Muthoni. Francis Mwangi, Esther Nyambura and Esther Wanjiru also died in the accident, while 3 other family members are still admitted in various hospitals with serious injuries, among them Shadrack Mbao, who lost his wife and 3 children in the accident.
Kando na zile running costs za kila siku, tunahitaji karibu milioni 4. Pesa ambazo zinahitajika. Kabla sasa hatuje hesabu ambayo yamejiri siku hii ya leo, na yale ambayo pengine yataendelea kufanyika kwa sababu ya bila ambazo zinaendelea kuongezeka. Lakini jambo moja nataka kusema ni kwamba together we are better.
The memorial service was attended by, among other leaders, Water Cabinet Secretary Zakaria Njeru and Nakuru Deputy Governor David Kones.
Tumuombe Mwenyezi Mungu aweze kutufariji na tujue ya kwamba chochote ambacho kinatendeka anajua sababu yake.
Sio familia peke yao, sio kanisa, hata sio county, ni national government. This is a national issue. Kwa sababu kupoteza watu kama hawa sio kitu rahisi.
Family and magereza team tungeomba tutafute counselors kwa sababu of the 2 officers. Mbao amepoteza watoto wake 3 na mke wake. Alafu Constable Macharia amepoteza firstborn wake.
The funeral service for the 7 members will be held at their Karirikania home in Kuresoi North on April 16, with the family appealing for financial support from well-wishers. Meanwhile, 4 people died earlier today after a bus belonging to Ken Silver Company in which they were traveling in rolled at the Nithi Bridge along the Meru-Embu Highway. According to the Rakanithi County Police Commander Zakias Ngeno, 8 other people were seriously injured and were rushed to Chuka and Chogoria hospitals. The cause of the accident is yet to be established. Ken Gashuhi, KTN News.
Now, legislators from the Western Sugar Belt region have strongly opposed the recently implemented sugarcane tax by the Kenya Revenue Authority. The legislators want the Kenya Revenue Authority to suspend the implementation of the sugarcane tax, which requires farmers to present the tax invoice per trip while delivering the produce.
The legislators argue that the new system, which requires farmers to present a tax invoice for each trip while delivering sugarcane to millers, is a significant hindrance to local farmers.
Kuna maneno ya e-teams ambayo imetokea. Tuliona wakulima wa avocado walipiga nuru wakafukuzwa watu ya KRA huko. Sasa hii watu wamekuja tena wapi? Hapa Kakamega na huku Western. Wanasema sasa wakulima wa miwa pia wafanye nini? Waingie kwa hiyo e-teams. Sisi hatukatai. Hata ukisema kila mtu alipe ushuru ni sawa. Lakini mkulima, hasa mkulima wa miwa, mkulima wa mahindi katika Kenya hii sasa anahangaika. Hapati faida. Ndio tunaanza kufufua upanzi na ukulima wa miwa. Na nyinyi mnakuja mnasema tufanye nini? Mnataka walipe ushuru na tayari hawana faida ile wanapata. Ile ningeomba ni kwamba hii serikali iangalie vile itasaidia wakulima kwanza, wakulima waweze kunawiri, ndio tukuje na mambo ya taxation.
They have called on KRA to suspend the implementation of the sugarcane tax as it poses a burden on the livelihood of farmers in the Western region. National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula assured the farmers to follow up on the reforms of different organizations in the sugar industry.
Harakati ya kufufua Nzoia, kufufua Mumias, ile mambo imesemwa hapa ya kwamba additional production lines ya ethanol, ya cogeneration, na ile yote nitaambia kamati ya agriculture ya bunge ichunguze kama inahitaji kupewa kipaumbele kwa budget, tutazungumzia kule tukienda.
Busia Governor Paul Otuoma has asked leaders from the Western region to work together to develop the region.
Well, on to a love story that transcends death. The wedding ceremony between Beatrice and the late Martin Gitare has surprised many in Kenyan County. The wedding plans were completed, but the groom passed away suddenly a week before the wedding. However, Martin's death did not stop the plans because the wedding continued and later the funeral was conducted. Catherine Imoraget has more.
Life is a candle. But for Beatrice Gitare, the candle of her husband Martin Gitare has not been turned off because she has fulfilled her promise to marry him despite his sudden death a week before the wedding. The church service continues. The guests dressed in attractive attire. The bride smiling, ready to tie the knot with her husband who is now deceased. The choir also performing praise songs. The wedding starts. The cake is cut. Beatrice Gitare, the wife to the late Martin Gitare, fulfilled the promise she made to her husband before his death.
Tumepanga harusi, lakini Mungu akamchukua mbele. Sasa leo kulikuwa siku ya mazishi na harusi yake. Tukamweka pete huko pamoja na mimi nikaweka yangu.
According to the priest Samin Njoroge, they have followed the instructions from the family, where the funeral followed after the wedding in church.
Hapo mwanzo wa mwaka huu tulipaga ya kwamba siku ya leo tutakuwa na sherehe ya harusi kati ya hao wawili, lakini kwa sababu ya mpango wake Mwenyezi Mungu, mmoja wao aliweza kuchukuliwa na Mwenyezi Mungu kupitia kifo, ndiposa tukapaga pamoja na familia siku ya leo ambayo tulikuwa tumenuia kufanya harusi, tufanye harusi kwanza hapa kanisani, alafu baadaye tuende tufanye sherehe ya mazishi.
Elijah Muriuki is the brother to the deceased.
Harusi yenyewe pete ya Martin Gitare imewekwa katika kamchukuu yake. Mchukuu wake yule mkubwa, yeye ndiye amefanywa jina ya yeye.
Alianza kusema eti kifua chake kinamuuma na kinamuumia pande ya nyuma. Akitoa hewa ama akipumua anasikia maumivu pande ya nyuma na kifua. Lakini kwa dakika chache tu akaaga. Kupelekwa hospitali, daktari walijaribu kutafuta ni nini ilimuua, lakini wakakuta ni ile ganda ya mahindi ambayo ilikuwa amekula ikaingia kwa hii channel ya kupumua, ikafunga na hapo akaaga.
According to the family, the deceased was not sick, but during supper, he started complaining of chest pain and suddenly passed away. Catherine Imuraget, KTN News.
Right, last year, Nairobi County Governor Johnson Sakaja identified the poorly maintained and clogged drainage system as a primary contributor to floods. This year, the unsolved problems claimed the life of an officer who was swept away by the rains in the line of duty. Our reporter Vera Mura has more on this.
His Excellency's administration, through the works sector and environment, are also working closely to ensure that we revamp the existing infrastructure.
This
is not the first time the county is promising to improve the drainage system of Nairobi. In 2023, City Hall employed 2,500 Green Army members. Currently, every sub-county has over 100 Green Army workers. Green Army is a group of youths contracted by the county to keep the city clean by sweeping and clogging drainages and collecting garbage.
There are people who have been on the riparians. Ngong River here has burst its banks. We've been telling people, you need to move. Now what we need to do, and this is our disaster chief officer, let's move those people. We have no choice because the weather forecast shows us that the rains are going to continue. The
county boss also noted that illegal structures were built and ended up blocking drainages, leading to flooding, insisting that all illegal structures put up along drainages are going to be demolished as his administration can't risk the lives of thousands of Nairobians at the expense of protecting one person's business. This promise, however, still remains a wish.
We are conscious that this is a big challenge, and I know that this administration is working towards trying to regularize and ensure that those structures that have been built along the, the drainage systems, along the riverine systems, are removed so that Mother Nature finds its way.
Had he kept his words, the incident that saw David Chisere, a police officer at Kamkunji police station, being swept away in the line of duty on Sunday, 24th of March, 2024, would be a story of victory and not death. The 10 p.m. incident exposed the poor drainage system with photos and videos circulating on social media platforms showing the flooded expressway and about 1,500 households affected in different areas of Mukuru, Kayole, Mathare, Kibera, and South Sea.
On the western side, we have the highlands where most of the rivers emanate from. The Ngong River, Gidororo, Mathare, they all come from the highlands and converge towards the lower lands of the eastlands area. So many a time you find that the impact and effect of floods is mostly felt in the eastlands area of Nairobi.
Despite Nairobi residents' hope for an upgraded drainage system before the rainy season, the expectations are constantly let down. Garbage still remains another responsibility the county has not responded to. Garbage is left unattended until it gets to the drainage system, causing the blockage of the system. In Kawangware, one side it is merry for these pigs. On the other side, children are not able to find their way.
Walibia wamwage hapa na City County inakuja chukua. Sasa wanamwaga kulingana na vile waliagana. Wanamwaga lakini watu wa county wanakataa kuchukua. Inaenda mpaka wiki 3, wiki 4, miezi 3.
Sasa tunashangaa, tulichagua gavana gani? Sakacha uko wapi? Wamama tunateseka. Tuko na watoto wanafaa kupita hapa mahali waende shule. Lakini ni shida watoto hata kupita. Harufu yenyewe hatuwezi. Sakacha tulikuchagua utufanyie kazi. Lakini kazi yenye unafanya hatuioni.
The insufficiency of the drainage system becomes evident as the rains expose its outdated and dysfunctional state, compelling residents to navigate flooded roads by slugging, hopping, skipping, and even using trolley pullers during the rainy season to cross the seasonal rivers on Nairobi's highway. Nairobians continue to brave floods and stagnant water during rainy seasons, as the county remains dependent on the old drainage that was designed to serve less than 500,000 people when the current city population has bloomed to 6 million, with 1 million operating from neighboring counties of Kiambu, Kajiado, and Machakos.
My plea to the county, change the plans, bring them to the latest that you have approved to, and make it work.
Certainly, we are also conscious of the fact that the existing drainage ecosystem we have in place is not adequate for phenomena such as what we witnessed the other day. When this was constructed, many years ago, this was to, cater for a population that was much lower than what you have today.
Contrary to what the man promised when he took office, he promised Nairobi residents rescue boats, a promise he still says is achievable.
These are not the typical boats that you're talking about. These are what you call rescue rafts. These are inflatable rafts that can actually be transported on a fire engine and deployed in an area that is flooded where it's not possible for the fire engine to access or for the affected public to be able to move to safety.
Boats aside, what awaits Nairobi occupants as they approach a rainy season can only be positive if the authorities begin working on the drainage systems.
Na gavana wa hapa, tulichagua gavana wetu na ambaye anaitwa Sakaja. Ako wapi? Ako wapi? Sakaja uko wapi? Sisi tunateseka.
Vera Mora, KTN News.
All right, and of course, this is a scorecard, as you can see there. Chaos, the state of Sakaja's Nairobi city. It says Governor Sakaja brought to power on the back of a pledge to transform the most important city in East Africa. But many of Nairobi's residents now think he's all dimples and no plans. All right, you saw that from the story there by Mora. Let's just begin from there, and we'll look at a raft of other issues. We'll look at Nairobi, what is happening with him, but more primarily is the strike and where we are at. You as legislators now, we need to put it into perspective because the president has said there is no money. Honorable Nyonka. Yes. So if there's no money, what next?
Money in terms of, you mean what the president is saying?
For the doctor strike.
You know, the story about our doctors and the government is actually a very sad story. But what I know, and a long time ago I learned it in school, in university, whatever policy you have and you want that policy to be implemented by your government or by your institution, that policy must be believable, it must be seen to be effective, it must be predictable, and that policy, when you are launching it, must be consistent with whatever and whichever issues that you're putting on the line. The problem we've got is this. If you saw yesterday, the office of the First Lady has been given about 700 million shillings. In the last financial year, they had been given another 600. In a period of 1 year, you're talking about 1 billion shillings. If you go to the Second Lady, who's the wife of the deputy or the vice president, deputy president, she was given the same amount of money. And you can cascade that all the way as we keep moving. The issue is, it's not that Kenya doesn't have the money to do all these things that I always see as discussed here. I am in the budget committee in the Senate. I sit in CPAC. I look at everything. I sit in the meetings where we are discussing from the budget policy statements, and we are coming into discussing things which are called CARA and all that. The truth and the reality is that if you picked a little bit here and there, you will actually be able to raise money to pay these doctors. The money is available. It's only that the prioritization that we're giving this money is the problem. There are three, and for me, I understand what the president is struggling with. And that is, you see, when you have a scenario where you are going to look at one sector, and the sector that you are actually looking at is the health sector. There are about 3 or 4 sectors which are related. Security sector, health sector, education sector, and one other, I forget what it is. If you take the doctors and give them a pay rise or a pay increment, what I believe the president is fearing is that the other sectors will demand for that pay raise. I don't think the question is that we don't have the money. Okay, because in reality, Dibal, we are actually collecting revenue. In reality, the government continues to increase the taxes that Kenyans are being levied on. The argument my side is trying to make is, no, yes, the president had talked about 70,000 shillings for the medical fraternity, for the young men who are going for attachment and all that. And what we are saying is, there was a CBA which was signed about 2 years ago, which is supposed to be implemented now. What happened to it? All right, that's number one. Number two, you look at the way we are handling this exercise. And I have seen what many Kenyans have been talking about in terms of the responsibility. And I don't think it's really political. I think the CS, who personally I know, who I highly respect as a person because I've known her for so many years, her engagement with the doctors has been below par. If you look at historically what the people who are in the Ministry of Health were discussing, were negotiating with the doctors and nurses and all that, the truth is that by now, in fact, the president shouldn't even be involving himself. By now, she should have sat with her teams. By now, she should have discussed and agreed, and a solution should have been looked for, because it doesn't look that these doctors actually want to let go of this strike. When we talk with some of them, they're talking about saying, we are going to continue, even if it takes 3 months, even if it means we lose our jobs. Because many of these doctors see the way we are handling our governance. They see how we handle public money. They see how we handle public resources. And many people now, we have now moved away, and I was so happy that my leader here actually raised the issue. We now want services. We now don't want politics. This nonsense of people going to funerals, and that's where they pronounce themselves about, I don't know what they want, which elections. Can we serve Kenyans for the next 3 years? Can we give services so that Kenyans don't feel desperate, so that you find that our doctors are our children, some of them are brothers, some of them are fathers, and all that. We must take some of these issues much more seriously than we are taking them.
Right.
And finally, Dibal, I want to say, one of the issues that these doctors have now realized is that there should have been a teacher service commission in the constitution, because we gave the teachers, that's why you notice that teachers are able to manage their affairs reasonably and in a manner which is predictable and in a manner that is reasonable. But because we didn't negotiate, the doctors did not negotiate for them to have their commission, which deals with their HR issues, which deals with their welfare, which is constantly negotiating and discussing with the government, you wouldn't be having this problem that you have here. And the doctors really, really feel let down.
All right. Oh, talking of commissions as well, we'll look into that much, much later, because Didmus is coming up with a bill that seeks now to make sure that SRC's commissioners, they're turned to be not really full-timers, but also part-timers moving forward. But when we circle back, we'll hear from Honorable Makalimuli, also Mulu, to tell us the issue of impeaching CS Namukicha as it stands, because it's a motion that will be moved by Babu Owino on the floor of the House. Will that really fly? And how can we come out from this particular stalemate? If there's no money, then what is the way forward? Because also there's a cash crunch, and the civil servants, it appears they will not be they haven't actually been paid the pension for the last 6 months. Yeah. So what is happening? We take a short break. When we circle back, of course, we shall look at those other issues as well.